what the interface looks like. And a lot of it is, as you would expect, biographical information, like your name, what school you went to, your major, your personal statement, extracurricular activities. So a lot of it is pretty, self-explanatory, but there are some things that we're going to try to show you to help, help you with the process, because there's a lot of little details where you could make some tiny errors that would affect your application. So we're going to focus in on a lot of how you write about your extracurricular activities, because it's not just what you do, but it's how you, what you gain from it and how you actually talk about it. And all of that is important when schools are evaluating you. So just keep that in mind when we're kind of going through this. It's going to be a lot of information, but at the same time, if you have any questions at any point, feel free to stop this, because it is a lot. So we're going to try to go along at a good pace where there's time for questions, in between, and of course we're going to have a Q&A session afterwards. So if there's anything there, you feel free to ask us. So without further ado, Siobhan, take us off.
Hey, so thanks for coming on Saturday. So just some information about myself is I went to community college for 2 years before I transferred to Cal. I was there for about 3 years, and graduated with a degree in bio and minored in global poverty, and then on graduation just was interested in doing research focused on sort of the social determinants of HIV infection. So I fortunately found a project close to home, and I was working there till very recently. And as I mentioned, I'm a reapplicant, so I didn't get in this past cycle. It was the first time I applied, and it'd be nice to touch upon some of the, through self-analysis, what I could do to improve on reapplication, what you might consider, fixing the first time. So, yeah. So, there are 3 important things you want to get together before the application opens and for the application year. And 3 most important things are, taking the MCAT. We'll talk about that further. Having an up-to-date CV, and getting your letters of recommendations together if you hadn't already before your application yet.
So who here has actually taken the MCAT already? If you have, you've taken the old one most likely. No one? Okay, so you're all going to take the new MCAT then? Planning to? Okay, cool.
So, the MCAT it could, at least for the immediate future, be one of the most difficult tests you're going to take. You shouldn't take the exam later than April of your application year, because it takes about a month at least to get your scores around. And as we'll touch upon later, it's important for you to have all your application materials in timely fashion, and be able to apply early, and to have the best chance of getting secondaries and interviews, which are given out on a rolling basis for most universities, if not for every university. So the studying for the MCAT is very time intensive, and I really recommend adjusting your schedule, both work and school, accordingly. Really putting in anywhere between 5 to 8 hours per day. So that's very important to consider, especially for students. And then, one thing that has been echoed time and again, and by admissions from various universities, is that only plan to take the MCAT once, and go into it thinking, I'm never going to take it, this is it, I'm going to take it once, and you're going to have to put all your effort into that one sitting. And one of the reasons is because if you do take it more than once, you have to admissions, and this is, I guess, repeated from the UC Davis pre-medical conference I went to this last year, is that if you take it twice, they want to see a significant improvement. And so it's not easy to get a significant improvement if you've really studied, and it takes a lot of work to improve your MCAT score if you did give your full effort the first time around. And they've also said repeatedly that they don't want to see a lot of MCAT scores if the score hasn't changed. It can actually hurt your application. So it's something to consider if you don't feel great about your first score, to consider restudying only if you can almost guarantee a better score the second time around. So I've had also several friends who were both successful and not successful in getting into med school, take it multiple times, and I can say at least roughly half to 3/4 got the same exact score on the second time, even though putting the same, even more effort into studying the second time around. So it's a lifetime too, so it's to use your time wisely with the MCAT is important. So
just one more thing to echo on what Siobhan said. So we only have the old scores to talk about, so we use that as reference because they're changing the scoring system. So who knows what the old MCAT was out of? What was the maximum?
45.
45. So what's a good score, relative good score? So I'm hearing like 30-ish, right? So the national median to apply last year was roughly 31, 32. So that's kind of like what you want to shoot for. Again, they're changing the scoring system completely to like 500 something, so per subsection, I believe. So it's a completely different score when we're going to talk about the new one. But for the old one, which is what we have to work off of, a lot of the top schools per se, according to the U.S. News ranking, the average is going to be about 35, 36. And we have the data that shows you what the average for each school is, and we'll pull it up shortly. But with regard to the MCAT, you do want to only take this once, because as Siobhan mentioned, we've talked to several admissions deans from like USC, UCLA, a lot of different schools, and these are the people who are in charge of picking the students, right? The admissions deans. And they've all told us, this is kind of, when you're entering medicine, you're going to be taking continuous standardized tests as you go along. There's step 1 when you hit med school, there's step 2, there's step 3 when you're a resident, and it's just continuous testing on and on. So the MCAT is really a test of 1, your test-taking ability, 2, your ability to reason critically, and 3, how well do you know the material you learned in undergrad. Because a lot of the stuff that you learn, for instance, organic chemistry, physics, not all of that, you're not going to see all of that over again when you reach med school. There's some of it that's going to come up again, but a lot of it isn't. So it's really testing at an early stage of your educational career how well you've grasped that content. So you want to take it once and only once. If you take it twice, you want to make sure you improve. Also, there are going to be practice tests released from AMC when you're doing your MCAT prep. But if you're scoring, let's just use the old test for reference. If you're scoring roughly 30 on your practice tests, it's unlikely that you're going to get a 36 randomly on the test day. So if you want a 36 and you're only averaging about 30 on your practice test, chances are you want to do something else to help improve your score, because you're not going to make that magical jump on test day. So take it when you're ready. A lot of it, for me, is, like as an example, my parents always push me, hey, take the MCAT, let's get your application in, let's move forward with this. But realistically, you want to prepare yourself to be the best applicant that you can be, and you want to take this test when you're ready, only when you're ready, because you don't want to come in averaging like a 28 and then you end up with a test score that you don't want, right? So prepare yourself well. It is really time intensive. I was talking to Kyle earlier. So Kaplan, their schedule is set up where you study 30 hours a day, and that's not atypical. A lot of people do study that much when they're prepping for the MCAT. So I know a lot of people during the summer, they would take 6-hour days every single day, and maybe do like a break day once or twice a week. But the rest of the days, 5 times 6, that's about 30, right? So really do put in your time, because along with your GPA, these are the first two things a lot of schools look at. And so that's how important it is. Not to say the other things, the other extracurricular activities you do, the research, all of that, not to say that's not important, but this is one of the first things that they look at, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, and although you should not underestimate the time that's required for this, but you should also know that just to hopefully just get you thinking about what this exam represents. Like Anderson said, it's one out of many exams you're going to take. You're going to, even after you become a physician, you're going to continually take exams to certify your training. So I mean, you can look at it in that perspective, but do well to take it once. One thing that will save you a lot of time in filling out MCAS is making sure you regularly update your CV. And it'll be important for the activities section, which we'll be getting to soon, but it'll help you also be able to summarize what you've done, your experience.